What is happening, gods and goddesses? It's your boy Hollywood AJ. We are live, back with another episode of the Keep It 100 podcast, where, like it's in the name, we always keep it 100 on this podcast. Let's talk about the fights this past weekend. UFC 272, Jorge Mossvadal versus Covington. I want to talk about the previous fights before the big one. We got Greg Hardy versus Sergey Spivak. Now, that was a big one. The rumor is Greg Hardy, that was his last fight on his contract. And in all honesty, he was never in that fight. He got completely dominated. Sergey beat a guy with a relatively big name and really put his mark in the heavyweight division. He did a great job of really controlling Greg Hardy and doing what a lot of people thought he would do in the latter part of the fight. He did it super early, so that's a big win for him. And I think that's the last time we might see Greg Hardy in the octagon. He's lost 2 in a row, 3 in a row, all by knockout or all by finish, TKO. He lost to Tai Tuivasa and now Sergey Spivak. And I just think, he had a good run. He may make a name for himself in another organization, and he may come back to the UFC. But he came into the game a little bit later than most do. So this might be the last time we will see him in the octagon. Then you had Kevin Holland making a splash like I knew he would, like I predicted he would, in a huge, huge win against Cowboy Oliveira. Not Cowboy Cerrone and not Charles Oliveira. The Brazilian Cowboy Alex Oliveira. He lost the first round, Kevin Holland did. It was really dominated by Alex Oliveira, where he was kind of being compared to, if he's patient, he may be one of the most dangerous fighters in the division. Kevin Holland, though, showed that, hey, 1, all rounds start on the feet, and 2, it's a tale of 2 rounds. And that's exactly what happened. He landed a good straight left, completely just annihilated Cowboy in the second round, which led to a TKO stoppage. And that was the final finish of the evening. That led to Edson Barbosa versus Bryce Mitchell. I was going for Bryce Mitchell mainly because he was on The Ultimate Fighter, a show I've been watching since I was 5 years old. He was on season 27, where Stipe Miocic and Daniel Cormier coached. He was on Team Cormier, and he didn't win it, and he didn't even make it to the finals, but he was already a beloved character coming off that show. He's from Arkansas. He's a very homegrown guy that really sticks to his roots. And if you try and tell him anything else, he's just going to tell you, get out of my face. This is Arkansas all day. And that's exactly what he did. He trains with Rolando Delgado, who is one of the best jiu-jitsu coaches in the world. He's another tough alum, season 8. And they had a really good game plan to fight Edson Barbosa. I wouldn't consider it a game plan, though, because this is Bryce Mitchell's actual style of fighting, where he's just going to take you down, he's going to ground and pound, and look for a submission. No submissions really presented themselves on Saturday, but the last person to really dominate and control and beat up Edson on the ground was Khabib Nurmagomedov. And Bryce Mitchell really established himself in the featherweight division as not only a prospect, but a top 10 contender. And I'd imagine he'd move to number 9 or number 8 in the rankings. And you can see a lot harder fights coming his way. And normally that's the best part of a fighter, is the rise. Who are they going to fight next? When they become champion, that's cool. But I think when the rise happens, when they're on the come up, that's probably the best thing that you can see in a fighter, regardless of if they're as famous as Conor McGregor was, or if they're just a simple fighter from a small town like Bryce Mitchell is. We had the co-main event, RDA versus Renato Moicano. Rafael Fiziev dropped out due to COVID, and Moicano, like the gangster he is, stepped up on 3 days' notice to take the fight. There was some controversy on if it should have been stopped or not. I like how it was handled. Mark Goddard told Moicano at the end of round 4, leading into round 5, you got 30 seconds to show me something. If you don't, I'm stopping this fight. He gave Moicano the benefit of the doubt, and he's like, fight it out. If you can, great. If not, I'm stopping it. And it just showed the heart and the toughness, and it also shows that these fighters are too tough for their own good. Some people were saying, oh, his corner should have stopped it. But in the reality, if you're a coach, you're only going in there to coach your fighter on what they have to do to win. Like, hey, keep your right hand up. Hey, slip this punch when he throws a right and then come back with the body shot or a right hook to the head. Or when you're on the ground, go chest to chest and then watch out for the ankle pick that your fighter's going to do. Things of that nature. They're not worried about stopping the fight at the end of the day. I guarantee you that's the last thing they're worried about going into a fight and going into when they're coaching their fighter. they already have so much on their mind. I'm pretty sure that they do not want that event to be on their conscience. And that is why Hanato and his corner were just giving him all the opportunities they can to, I wouldn't say win because that was out of the picture, but finish on a high note and finish showing that he's tough. And he is. He cracked RDA with some really big shots. And I was just thinking, man, what if he actually knocks out RDA? Like, that'd be crazy. But no, RDA got to win. You know, he's had a rough road with a ton of opponents falling out. So it wasn't in his weight class. It was a catch weight at 160. But you could tell he wanted to get some rounds in, and he did. So it's going to be interesting to see who they match him up with. And another big thing I wanted to get off my chest is why didn't Islam Makhachev take the fight? If Khabib is as good as he says he is, if Islam himself says he's as good as people make him out to be, if all these guys at AKA speak so highly about Islam and say we haven't even seen the tip of the iceberg yet, your chance was to show the entire world this past Saturday night. I know he fought the weekend before, but let's be honest, no damage was caused to Islam. He walked out of there unscathed, absolutely unscathed. And the booking between him and RDA happened 4 times already, 3 or 4 times. You mean to tell me that this was the closest we could have gotten to Islam Makhachev and RDA fight? I know he thinks he earns a title shot after defeating Bobby Green, but Bobby Green was unranked. Dos Anjos is a former lightweight champion. He's ranked in the top 10. You beat him, you truly establish your dominance in the division. After he beat Bobby Green, I'm not really sold. You beat a guy on short notice and you beat a guy that wasn't even ranked. It's very similar to when Khabib defeated Darrell Horcher when he was supposed to fight Tony Ferguson. So I'm not sold on Islam Makhachev one bit, and I think it was a very unprofessional and a very cowardly move for him to not take that fight. I wouldn't call him a coward, though, because anyone that makes that walk to the octagon or the ring is not a coward. But I think he bottled it in this fight, and he had the chance to really put his name out there and make himself a well-established contender and leave no doubt to everyone's mind, in my mind, to his mind, even Khabib's mind, that he is one of the most dominant forces in the division. He thinks he has the ability to call the shots, and I think he was just scared that he might lose. But his style of fighting, which is just takedown, takedown, takedown until you quit, you know, it would have suited him perfect, and he might have even beaten RDA. So that's all I'm going to say about the co-main event, that Islam Makhachev completely bottled the co-main event, and we could have had a better one. And I didn't think that RDA versus Moicano should have been 5 rounds. It should have been 3. I don't even know why they made Dos Anjos versus Fiziev a 5-round fight. I know in my last podcast I said, hey, that's a great idea. In the contrary, though, it wasn't. Then we got the main event of the evening, the big one, the one we were all looking forward to seeing. Jorge Mossvadal versus Colby Chaos Covington. Game bred. King of Miami versus the King of Oregon, who claims he's the King of Miami. It was like a Hollywood movie. However, the climax of the film wasn't that of a Hollywood film. Jorge looked ready. He looked like he had something up his sleeve for Colby. They were former training partners. And I mentioned this in my last show, that when they sparred and when they would grapple, it was extremely competitive. Now it looked like, hey, clearly it was just practice. Like AI, we talk about practice. You know, you can't really necessarily give a fuck about practice. You know what I mean? So let's break it down a little bit round by round. First round came out, and I thought, okay, if there's a chance that if he's going to win, it not only has to be early, but it has to be via his own style. Being that he's a prolific boxer, he's a prolific kickboxer. His kicks are nasty. I think he has one of the best kicks, left body kicks in the game. But he came out throwing a jumping kick, which was like a superfly kick, I would say. He was kind of feeling Colby out. Both men at first seemed a little hesitant. And then Jorge got poked in the eye. And I believe In that moment, that is where the fight changed. That is where the tide began to change in Colby's favor. I say that because Jorge was getting his range. He was getting his distance down to land something big on Colby. And then the eye poke happened. He was looking to Herb Dean, and Herb Dean wasn't willing to stop it. It was clearly an eye poke, but Jorge needed to fight through that. I know it's easier said than done, but if he couldn't fight through that, Colby Covington put him up against the fence and was able to take him down. Chael Sonnen said that was the most resistance that Colby Covington had on a takedown almost the entire fight. I completely disagree. Colby had him where he wanted, and it was very reminiscent to when Colby Covington fought Robbie Lawler, where he took Robbie Lawler down and was threatening with the rear naked choke, but he actually wasn't going to do it. He wasn't going to do it. He was just beating Jorge up softly, just landing light punches, not tiring himself out, slithering a few chokes here and there, but wasn't really full forcingly trying to tap Jorge out. That's not really in Colby's game. I know he has a few rear naked choke wins on his career. I believe he has 2, but he's kind of abandoned that side of his game. Round 2 came out, and Jorge had a better round. He was able to land a bit on Colby. I don't know if this happened to you guys, but all of a sudden the TV blacked out. And I'm just like, what the hell just happened? Like, am I going to miss something big? Am I going to miss a knockout? Am I going to miss something completely swindling the fight in favor of another man? What was I going to miss? And when the fight got resumed back to ESPN, it seemed like we were going in favor of Jorge Mossvadal. It seemed like the fight was going in favor of Jorge Mossvadal because the commentary and the fans made it seem like something big had happened. So round 2 was close to call, but you can have it 1-1. I had it 1-1 going into round 3. Round 3 is when the tide really began to change. Colby Covington got a takedown with little to no resistance at all and was able to just control Jorge there for the entire time. You could even say it was a 10-8 round. I wouldn't mind that. Jorge got up with about 15 seconds left in the round and didn't really do much. Round 4 was more of the same, but Jorge was actually defending. That's one thing I thought Jorge would watch out for more in this fight was the wrestling. We all know that Colby Covington was not worried about the knockout power that Kamaru Usman possessed in their second fight. And that's why he wasn't really going to go for a takedown on Kamaru. He wasn't as desperate for going for a takedown on Kamaru like he was for Jorge. Because Jorge is a dangerous man, and you have to fight almost nearly a perfect fight against him. And that's exactly what Colby Covington did. But the big story, I think, in this fight was after a takedown, Jorge got up and landed a great, crisp right hook that rocked Colby Covington. Absolutely put him on wobbly legs, right in the jaw. I mean, he was fucked up. He was hurt for a solid 20 seconds. And this situation right here might have been the biggest mistake in Jorge Masvidal's life. I'm not saying that exaggerating. I genuinely mean that. He didn't pounce on Colby. He heard him bad, and he just stared at him like this. That's all he did. You can chalk it up to 2 things. 1, he didn't know how bad he had him hurt because Colby popped right back up. That shows his toughness. 2, you can already clearly tell that Jorge was gassed. He looked extremely pale, and he was just sucking air almost. And he was gassed. Plain and simple, he was gassed. But that situation right there was extremely reminiscent to UFC 263, June of 2021, when Nate Diaz had Leon Edwards hurt. Except Diaz didn't have the excuse that he was tired. He's just a dummy. Jorge had an excuse because he was tired. But what Jorge should have done, I know it's easier said than done, but when you're a fighter and you've been in street fights basically all your life, one would think that a street fight is much harder than any professional fight that any man would have. What he should have done was empty out the tank right then and there. Just empty it out. because Kobe was hurt, like I said, for a solid 20 seconds. If he would have emptied out the gas tank, I believe he would have gotten the finish. And if not, then hey, what happened in round 5 would have happened again had Colby Covington not been finished and had Jorge emptied out the gas tank. It's just that simple. No matter what, if Jorge didn't finish him, that round 5 was going to happen. Colby got the takedown, wasn't going to play Jorge's game anymore, and was just able to control him. He wasn't landing any sick ground and pound on Jorge, but he was able to just truly control Jorge in a dominating fashion. Jorge had the bigger moments in the fight, and I'm pretty sure all the analysts are going to be talking about just that, how Jorge had Colby hurt and didn't pounce on him and didn't finish. But Colby dominated him. And that's the honest truth. He dominated him from second 1 to minute 25, as he would say. I felt Jorge was very hesitant on his combinations because Colby even outstruck him on the feet. That has to be more embarrassing than him not finishing Colby when he had him badly hurt, exceedingly hurt. For Colby to outstrike Jorge on the feet, that's bad. That's just, it's sad. And I put all my eggs in Jorge. I had him winning via first round KO, the very end of the first round. Like I said, he just seemed hesitant, but so did Colby Covington. But you can tell when they were on the ground, he was in his world. But you would have thought that Jorge, knowing this, and for him fighting for 20 freaking years, would perfect his wrestling defense. And fighting a man that all he does is wrestle, he would perfect that. He did. Colby Covington didn't even have 50% on his takedown ratio. No. He was 4 of 12 at one point in the fight. He wasn't even at 50%. So Jorge did stop the takedowns, but when he needed to stop a takedown, he couldn't do it to save his life. And it's just bad, and it was sad. He talked a big game. He knew what he's going to do, and Jorge couldn't stop it. And that is so frustrating. I always put my eggs in one basket in these big fights with Conor and Khabib, with Conor and Poirier, with Conor and Floyd, with Jorge and Usman, with Jorge and Colby. And I always come up short. And Jorge, he does seem apologetic to the fans, but we all know one thing, and that Colby Covington is so good. And if there wasn't a man named Kamaru Usman existing at this time, Colby Covington would be the number 1 pound-for-pound fighter in the world. He's just that good. He's just that good. But as far as both men and where they're going to go, I think for Jorge, we could stop talking about him being in the conversation for a title. I think his time is over. I think he is going to get 1 or 2 good wins. If Colby somehow becomes a champion, I think they do have a rematch, but we're a long way from that. I don't know who Jorge is going to fight. He wants to come back as soon as possible or even take some time off, but I think he's taken too much time off. He's only fought 3 times in the past 2 years. He fought once in 2020 and He's fought once in 2020, once in 2021, and now once in 2022. And this could be the only fight he's had this year, that he'll have this year. I think if he fights the loser of Gilbert Burns and Khamzat Chimaev, that'd be a good stepping stone for him. But if it was going to be an awkward situation for both men, regardless who came out on top. It was going to be a weird spot for Jorge because he just got knocked out by Kamaru, and say he beat Colby. Would we want to see him and Kamaru again? I would say no. Colby called out Dustin Poirier because he knows he has a lot of work to do to really change Kamaru's mind on if he wants to get another title shot, if he wants to give Colby another title shot. So that is definitely something that is interesting. I like the fight with Dustin Poirier. I'm going to make a video this week about how Dustin Poirier is acting extremely weird in the media. I mean, he's a definition of money gets to your head and he changes you. Like, man. I don't know what's up with that guy. But I like the fight with Colby and him. I think the only man that could throw a monkey wrench in this entire thing is Khamzat Chimaev. I think he will beat Gilbert Burns. I don't like that fight for Gilbert. I think Khamzat will destroy Gilbert Burns. And I think a number 1 contenders bout between him and Colby will do justice for both men to truly see, hey, is Colby deserving of a third fight with Usman, or is Khamzat the new wave of the welterweights? And I can't wait to see, and it's going to be absolutely amazing. It was a fun night. I lost some money betting on Jorge, but Jorge really needs to tighten up. I mean, it's now or never. It should have been now or never after he lost to Usman the first time. And hopefully he just comes to his senses and realizes that. But all in all, great night of fights. Hope you guys gambled responsibly. Hope you guys drank responsibly. Please give me a like and subscribe. Comment on what your favorite fight of the night was. Shoot, even comment your take on the Mossvadal Covington fight. Let me know what you think is best for both men, what is next for either one of them, and most of all, keep watching my videos. Like I said, like and subscribe. Stay safe, stay healthy, keep it 100. Be yourself. I'm out.